Let's do this. Welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. And we will be starting, we're going to give everybody just a few minutes, maybe just like one or two, to make sure everybody gets a chance to register and get fully in the room before we really get started. But by way of saying hello, if you wanted to drop an emoji in the chat, sharing kind of like the feeling that you're bringing into today's conversation, whether you're just feeling hopeful about the second round, hopeful about learning more resources, or maybe feeling a little nervous. If you are able to drop in an emoji that you feel like describes how you're feeling, we would love to kind of get a vibe for how you're feeling as you come into the space today. Seeing a lot of people making their way in, and I'm going to keep just admitting people for a little bit longer. We recognize with the registration, some people often are a little bit late because they didn't realize they needed to go through a registration process. So we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get into the room. But yeah, as we're waiting to let people in, I saw a few emojis coming in, frustrated, a little sad, a little nervous. I did see some stars, and makes me think maybe some people are feeling hopeful. And we do have our wonderful volunteers and also the enrollment center here today to support some of that hope and also respond to some of that anxiety, because we know getting into like starting your school space it's a big deal. There's a lot of feelings, even if no matter what placement you got, there's a lot of feelings. Admit all. All right. So we have a lot of our group here. We are also, while we're letting people in, I'm also going to go ahead and launch our poll. We have a poll today sharing, we're curious who all's in the room. If you have TK, K through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. All right, we have a lot of K5. We've got some high school, some middle school, a lot of TK. Welcome. All right, and I think it is 12:03. It feels like a good time to go ahead and get started so that we're able to respect everybody's time and get us moving. And so I'm going to now invite Eric oh, by the way, I've been talking this whole time and haven't told you who I am. I'm Sarah with SF Parents Coalition. Again, so grateful to have you all joining us. So SF Parents Coalition has brought together 3 people. We're all going to introduce ourselves in a minute. But I am going to ask Eric to go ahead and start sharing the slides so that we can go through our agenda, intros, and kind of get going with the goal of making sure that everybody is able to get out of here by 1 o'clock. Okay. Are the slides showing up? No. Okay. Well, I'm going to let Eric go ahead and just explain our agenda so that we are, while we kind of work on figuring out the slide situation. So, first, we've already started. You've let us know your grade level. There we are. Welcome to our main round. Welcome to our round 2 lunch and learn, explaining the assignment system and all that. So in the agenda today, we are going to explain the full enrollment process and updates. You'll hear what's next. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And with that, we've already checked in with everybody on the agenda. We saw your grade levels. We see a lot of you are TK and a lot of you are kinder. And then I saw a lot of feelings in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. We appreciate that. And then moving forward, we're going to do a quick introduction of who is in the room. So as I said, I am Sarah Montoya. I'm with the SF Parent Coalition. We are an organization that started kind of during the pandemic. At the time, we were called Decreasing the Distance, and our primary goal being to really bridge the gap in communication so that parents' voices can be heard in the district, which is part of the reason why we're doing this activity today, to bring parents into a room with a conversation with our enrollment center. And then we're also really focusing right now on the fact that we love our SF schools. Like San Francisco School District has a lot of really great schools, and we want all of you to have access to that and see that. And so we also have Jessica Franklin here. You can wave, Jessica. And then we have Autumn with us. And so I'm going to let Autumn and I'm going to let Jessica go first. Just a quick introduction, who you are, what the SF Lottery Group is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Franklin. I have twins currently in middle school. When my twins were when we started researching schools, so they were 4, TK was not available to my kids. So and that's not a process I had to go through, but I also didn't get access to it. So a little bit of both. When we were researching schools, a friend of mine suggested we start a Facebook group just to share our resources. And then she is a particularly community-oriented person, and she said, well, we have created all these resources. We should share them with other people too. So she made it a public group, and it has just since grown and grown, because that was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. So the group is just there. We try to keep it pretty fact-based and answer questions. People who have, the lottery can be a little bit complicated. People who are coming in don't always understand that you don't just go to the school down the street, what the processes are, what the rounds are. So we just try to be a resource for people to understand how to enter this great system that we get to be a part of.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for introducing that. And yeah, if you're not part of the SF Lottery Group, it's an amazing resource. And now Autumn, she's a member of our Parent Leadership Council and SF Parents. And do you want to just say hi really quick and kind of your story of how you're involved?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Autumn. I also serve as the PTA president at my kids' Title I school in the Mission. I have 2 kids, a 3rd grader and a current TKer. So I feel you on everyone waiting for TK spots. It's definitely something that we're excited the district is expanding. So hopefully we can give some of you some help there. Other than that, I volunteered and got involved by way of my daughter having the experience of Zoom kindergarten. So that's really how I got to know the SF Parents Group, and working to find ways to make access to education more equitable in San Francisco. So excited to be here and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Autumn. And yeah, and like I said, so we're SF Parent Coalition, focusing on the needs of children and youth in San Francisco, with a vision for a future in which San Francisco is one of the best places in the country for children and youth of all races, socioeconomic backgrounds, and abilities to grow and get an excellent public education. And now Eric, I would love for Eric to introduce himself. He has given his time as part of the Enrollment Center to be here and educate and provide information for you. So Eric, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Sarah, Autumn, and Jessica for having me here. And Giovanna moderating the chat. Thank you for doing that as well. And thanks to everybody who's here listening in. My name is Eric Cuentos, and in addition to, yes, I work for the Enrollment Center in San Francisco Unified School District. I'm also a parent. I have 4 kids in the district. I have a 10th grader at Soda. I have 2 6th graders at Denman, and then I have a 1st grader at SF Community School. And we're sort of definitely in it. I have also, like, before I came to work here, I only about 6 months into the job here at SFUSD. I worked for a nonprofit that did running a family engagement program. And I also have had my own experiences with enrollment. So like I have been on your side of this Zoom situation, of this meeting. And so I definitely can empathize with the people who are feeling frustrated or feeling confused even, or feeling sad, because I've been there. I definitely have. What one of my objectives here is to be able to explain a little bit about what the system is, and hopefully a little bit about the why it is the way it is. Make sure that there's a like shared understanding around what the next steps are for anybody who wants to pursue some next steps. And then I'm available to ask some questions. Like I said, to answer some questions. Like I said, I'm still somewhat new. So there are likely going to be questions that I don't know how to answer. And if there are any, then I will definitely make a note of them and then get some answers and then share that back out with Sarah. And I also am happy to have a follow-up conversation with anybody here. My contact information is right here on the slides. You guys anybody here can reach out to me after this and send me, like if there's like a specific individual question you have that maybe you don't want to like put on blast to everybody on this call, especially because it's being recorded. I'm happy to have an offline conversation with you all after the fact as well. So without further ado, I'm going to keep going. Sarah, do you mind reading this quote?
Yes. So we do acknowledge that there are a lot of feelings in the room, but this quote was actually this parent perspective. It was one I connected with, and it brought me a lot of joy reading. So I wanted to share it with you. So it says, "I am writing as a parent of a third grader at Sierra Elementary. When we applied for kindergarten, Sierra wasn't on our radar. We had our top picks, and after the first 3 or 4, the rest was just logistics. I was devastated when we got our assignment letter and our 9th pick, Sarah, was on the page. As a first-time parent, I cried. I'll admit it. I cried, and then I drove up to the Holy Park Circle to take a look and saw the beautifully renovated school and thought I should at least give it a tour. Call me superficial, but the birds were chirping, kids looked happy, and the idea of a small school minutes from my house started to sound really good. I'm so grateful for that because our child's time at Sierra has been full of outstanding teachers, supportive staff, and a school where he wants to be dropped off early and stay late." So that's a wonderful story of a parent finding a placement that they didn't really want, but it was a great one for them.
So again, I want to make sure that it's clear. We're not saying that everybody needs to feel this way. And in fact, there's probably just as many people who would feel really sad about this being the situation. But it's possible. And, one of the things that I would like all of us, including myself, to really hold on to is sort of curiosity and like, let's wait and see what's possible, right? So I'm gonna move on. First things first, where are we? Like the basics. I mean, probably everybody here already knows. The assignment letters went out on March 18th, and the accept or decline deadline is on April 5th. Everyone probably also knows that April 19th is also the deadline for the appeals, hardship appeals, and for the round 2 application, and that both will be notified from those on May 27th. That's the basics. Hopefully that's not surprising folks. May 27th is also when the wait pool will open up. So if folks want to add themselves to the wait pool, then that's an option there as well. And then July 15th is when open enrollment will be opening up as well, in case folks want to use that. So when people talk about, the different rounds right now, there used to be more, but now we had main round, now we have round 2 / appeals, which is sort of like 2B basically. And then we'll have wait pool, and then we'll have open enrollment. Those are the options for now. We'll talk a little more about what that looks like in a minute. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew what place we were in. And also, in case, again, I probably don't have to get into this, but in case it's ever confusing, these are the first step we want people to do is to accept or decline Our high recommendation is to accept, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, about why in a minute. But the way to do it is preferably on parent view, but you can also do it in person at our offices. We have one here in Civic Center where I am right now, or in the Bayview. Or you can drop it off at a school, or you can email it as well. So important detail before I get into the why we recommend accepting. You don't have to accept if this is new this year. If you are a family, and I don't see too many, I see very few. It looks like only 2 people here on this group are applying to middle school. But of those, if you are a current SFUSD student and applying to middle school, you don't have to accept. You are automatically accepted. It also is the case for some folks who are homeless or who are foster youth. So that would reduce your burden, and we would only need you to decline if you really aren't interested, but otherwise you are automatically accepted. You don't have to do anything. And the way you'll know if that's the case is if you get a letter like this, and here at the bottom it says, if you wish to keep it at school, no further action is needed. If that language is there, well, then that's how you'll know that you don't have to accept. If the letter that you got, the assignment letter, says, please, respond to accept or something like that, then you know you are not automatically accepted. This is sort of a pilot, and on our end, we're testing it out to see how it goes. We might decide based on that whether or not next year to expand it or to not do it at all. But that's the reason why we are choosing some people to automatically accept and others not. I want to also remind people, if people have any questions, they can start adding it into the chat. And then Giovanna is going to be monitoring it, and I'm going to try to answer all the questions hopefully I'll answer some of your questions even in the presentation we have going on. But if not, I promise we'll get to your questions. That is one of the things that I really personally try to pride myself in. Okay, so the reason why you're all here. You're like, all of this, like, yeah, I already know this, right? Okay, why are we here? So now what? Now that I see my assignment, what now? Right? First things first, before we get to that, this is the data about the number of applications we received in main round, TK to 12, 14,133. And I want to just mention one thing about that is that I personally have had conversations on the phone with folks today or in the past couple of weeks where, like, I think that part of the challenge is not just understanding what the rules are, but like accepting that, because the rules can feel arbitrary. It can feel like, oh, why can't you be flexible in my situation? Like there's this extenuating circumstance, there's that extenuating circumstance. I really just want this. Why can't I have this? I have been on that side of things as well. I really have. But this number is a big number. So if we do exceptions in one situation, or if we are flexible in one area, suddenly we have to be thinking about being flexible in these other areas, and then things kind of start to fall apart. If we're looking at 100 applications, even 500 applications, then it's a little bit different. But 14,000 is a lot of applications just for main round. This is the data in terms of who got a choice. So as you'll notice, a lot of people here are TK. Just a little bit more than 50% of applicants got their first choice of the TK. That is definitely lower than everybody else, than all the other groups. And of this, 77 received a choice, which means 23% were designated a school that they did not put on their list, right? That's a pretty high number. It's a number that we're not super happy with, but there's also not that much we can do about it, because there is just a lot more demand for TK than there is supply, and the supply is not something we can control. There's like the physical space in schools is the limit here. So that's one of the challenges we have. And I think that the district is aware of it and they're working on ways to expand TK. But for now, this is one of the challenges we experienced. Now, for the other grades, if you'll notice, only 7% of kindergarten students were designated, so 93 got one of the choices that they put on there. And then roughly around that for the other schools as well. And 65% received their first choice for kinder, 75% received their first choice for middle school, and 62% received their first choice. So that is a little better than that's about what we've been doing. It's like for the last few years. We also have additional data about like how many people received one of their top 3 choices and everything, but we're gonna just leave it at that for now. I recognize if you are one of the folks here, one of the 23% in TK, or one of the 7% for kinder, or 9% for middle school, or 8% for high school, then it can feel like I don't care about these other people, right? I get it, I know. But part of the reason why it wasn't why that happened is because of the number we had here, which is 14,000. That's a big number. It's hard to meet everybody's needs to the best extent possible. So let's move on. What are we gonna do now? So first things first, you can visit the school. You can try what that family did that we started with the quote. Who had the quote that we started with, and take a tour. This year the district is really advocating for all schools, or as many schools as possible, to offer tours after the main round, so the families can get to know, and see, hey, maybe I do like this school, right? And then you can also apply for round 2, and then eventually you can apply for the wait pool. But what we really recommend is that if you plan on going to an SFUSD school, if that's what you want, then you should probably accept the assignment, even if it's not one that you're happy with. Because this round, we do designation. But in round 2, we don't do designation. So if we cannot give you a school that you apply for in round 2, then you don't have a school next year. And we don't want that for you. The only options that you have available after that are the wait pool or open enrollment. But open enrollment tends to have even fewer options, and wait pool you can only apply for one school as an option. So that's why we recommend you to accept the school if you think you want to have a spot in an SFUSD school. And then move on to the round 2. The other important thing is you don't get a special benefit. We don't prioritize or give you additional chances of getting something if you decline your assignment from round 1. So it's like you have a lot to lose and you don't have anything to gain from declining. That's the piece that we have there. Again, this is the information around main round, accept decline by April 5th. Important detail, if you are one of the families that has to accept and you don't do so by April 5th, then it's as if you declined. We will drop. You will no longer have that assignment. So please make sure that you do accept. Round 2 application is April 19th, and the appeal is on the website here. The slides, we can share these slides with folks after the fact if people want to use them to click directly. But I'm gonna keep moving on because I know those people probably have questions. Another important detail, when you're thinking about applying for round 2, only apply to schools that you want more than the school that you were assigned in round 1. So, if you are sort of happy, but not really that happy with round one school, definitely put any schools that would make you really happy to get in round two, but don't put any more that in round two that you're sort of happy, but not really happy, because basically whatever school you have in round two, if we assign you that school, you lose your spot in round one. And we would hate for the situation where you end up getting a spot in round two of at a school that's even that you wanted even less than the one in round one. And the reason we do that is because there might be folks who are trying to get into the school that you were assigned in round one, right? So we want to be able to give them that spot that you're giving up by getting into the school that you were applying to for round two. How to accept decline. Again, I don't know if I need to go into this, but the slides are available to you all. If you have questions, you can see this video that was prepared. The dates are out of date, but the video does a great job of explaining things step by step. So I would definitely recommend it. We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep moving. And then if you have any questions, you could always visit this website. You could email this email address, or you can email my email address, which was at the front of the meeting, and then I can also put it into the chat in a minute. You can call this number, or you can come visit us. And that's my presentation. Questions? I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can look at everybody.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for just kind of breaking it down. There have been a lot of questions through the chat, and I've been seeing Autumn and Jessica piping in with answers. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And so, let's see, Aaron, Eric, you're open for just questions now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And then also, Jessica and Autumn, you are also free to answer some of these questions using your expertise. And Autumn, actually, I would love you to share, because you'll be hosting second round tours at your school, correct?
That's right.
If anybody has any specific questions about setting up second round tours, just know that Autumn is available as someone who's doing this at our school to tell you a little bit about like what that looks like. I know you've already done tours, but we really do want to encourage you to visit your placement school before you make a big decision. And Autumn is here as someone who is helping make this happen. And I did see, so I saw a lot of questions about if you didn't get your TK placement, how should you order your preferences for round two? I kind of feel like you answered that with like, at least make sure that you like it more than the school you're assigned to. Is there any other like thoughts on that feel helpful?
There's one other important thing about TK specifically. TK is not a required grade. And I'll just name one of my kids was eligible for TK, and I just declined it because my kid was happy at their preschool. So we spent our TK year in preschool. And that's something if you have the capacity to do it, it's not free. But it probably isn't free anyway. And it's certainly there's also other considerations. There's the after school program aspect to it. There's other considerations about why you might try to do TK as opposed to pre-K. But one option that people might have for TK that is different from K-12 is just simply choosing to decline if you're really unhappy with the TK assignment that you have, you could decline that. If you know that your kid has a other option for pre-K, and then just put in round two the schools that you would be more happy with. And if you don't get them, at least your kid is in pre-K and can do one more year in pre-K. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I did notice somebody asked actually basically that question of like, can I decline my spot in August? You can My recommendation, because I understand that like paying for school is a lot and it's a lot of stress. There's a lot of reasons to take advantage of pre TK, which is why it was pushed. And so I think it makes sense to do round 2 if you're able to. If you are able to wait and not tell your pre-K immediately, doing round 2, and then if you still aren't happy after round 2, that would be when I think it would make sense to go ahead and decline the spot, so that if there's someone else, because the school you don't want is very likely a school that someone else does. And I
Yeah.
think that that's like, because all of these schools are good schools. So making sure you decline your spot if you full on decided you're not going into the district, making sure that that decline happens so that someone else is able to take that spot. But don't feel pressured to decline it now. Go ahead and do round 2, maybe even put yourself on a wait list. Look at what your preschool requires of you, and you can set the date accordingly. Does that connect for people? Because I know preschools, like you're paying tuition, like some of them are like, you need to make a commitment for the year, like you're good. But go ahead and look at that, because like the TK is available to you. It just might not be at a school that you're wanting. Um, all right. And you can actually, at this point, we've got 30 minutes. We have a lot of questions, but you do have permission to like raise your hand, ask a question out loud.
I wanna,
Eric, can I ask you a quick question?
sure.
Parents for Public Schools used to have a school ambassador program, and they had, I don't know how familiar you are with Parents for Public Schools. It doesn't seem like they're doing that anymore, but I know they get some funding from the district, and I was just wondering if you know what's going on.
Yeah, so I know they do workshops. They do enrollment workshops, similar to what I'm doing here, actually.
Yeah, no,
and-
they used to have programs where I used to be one.
Mhm.
Parent ambassadors would sign up and be, basically say, here's my name. If anyone wants information about
Yeah.
the next school, call her.
Yes.
But I don't think they're
I'm not familiar if that parent ambassador program is working, and if it's working in the same way that it was when you were the parent ambassador. So I would definitely recommend just, looking up that information on their website. But one thing you could do if you don't know anybody is, I understand that that's one of the things that your Facebook group is really good
Yeah,
at.
I answered that on a question. I typed it in, but encourage people to join. I mean, as with any organization, we don't have people at every school, and it's just based on who joins the group and who stays in the group after they're assigned and who's willing to help. But it certainly is, for parents who are new to the district, you probably don't have a lot of friends that are at different schools all over the city. So it certainly is a wider group.
Yeah. And then another thing that you might do is, even if the school you were assigned doesn't have tours, or you missed the tour, or you can't make the time that they have as available for tours, you might still ask to come. And you can't, like, it's not like you can go into every classroom, but you could like, visitors are allowed. You could come in and talk to, if knowing that everyone's really busy. I don't want to say like you can come in and try to monopolize everybody's time, but you are allowed to go in and visit at least the main office. And then at the main office, they might be able to give you some additional information about like the PTA president that you could reach out to, or they might be able to give you information about like if they have a family liaison who you can talk to. Those are the kinds of things that you could do. You don't have to even show up. You can call. That's the other thing. Schools, you can call the school and say, hey, I just got assigned to the school. I want to know about more information about it. How do you recommend me finding out? And so again, I can't guarantee that you're going to be satisfied with everything because I don't know every school. But those are options that if I were in people's shoes, I would do that. I would either call or I would, show up and see what I can learn from talking to people. And again, the positions to look for are a family liaison. If they have one, great. Or like sometimes you can ask for like the PTA president.
I also just want to note that a lot of schools have open shared school sites. I think is the shared school grounds, something. So there's an official name for it, which just means they're open on the weekend, and that isn't the same as getting to know the community. But you can go to the school. I mean, the school that my kids went to for elementary school was an open school site on the weekend, and we used to go play on the playground. I actually met the principal there one weekend. Like he was just out there doing some yard maintenance, so we chatted. Some of them you can look in the windows and see what the classrooms look like. Again, it's not
Mhm.
quite the same as being all the way in, but it can help you learn a little bit about school.
A couple additional tips, and this is something just like from the conversations that I've had with families in the last couple of weeks, is if you think something is too far away, before you say it's definitely too far away, try driving there in rush hour traffic if you can, or or at least map it out on Google Maps, because like the city sometimes can feel a little bit closer than you might think, especially maybe there's a route that you don't know about. So I would definitely do the extra work before just saying, oh, you know, it's too far away. Because sometimes it's also like mentally it's too far away because it's like in a different part of town or whatever, or you've never been there. But then you can discover actually no, it's actually not that far. So that's one. The second thing is the start times. I know that sometimes people really, that's one of the reasons why they say it's not going to work for me is the start times, especially if it's a later start time and then you got to get to school to work. There are some schools that do offer before care, but it's not a guarantee. And especially, so I would definitely not expect you can get it, but you could find out more information about that. And I did that once with a family. I just called the school and say, hey, I know you guys do before care. How can I find more information about it? And then they put me in touch with the person, right? So that's one. And then the other is that schools have, and this is at a school by school basis, different times when they are able to receive. It's not like you can only drop your kids off within the window of 5 minutes before school starts, right? So if an 8:40 starts school, oftentimes you can drop off your kid at 8:20 and there will be someone on the yard supervising your kid, right? My kids have my youngest has a 9:30 start school, but there's somebody at the yard starting at 9 o'clock. And so, I can drop off my kid at 9 and be gone. So those are little tricks of the trade that you might not know about, especially if you're new to SFUSD. I want to answer the question from Anthony Green about out of the 14,133 applicants to SFUSD, how many do we expect still actually attend SFUSD next year? I don't actually know the exact number, although we could get that information for you all. But it's a pretty high number. It's a pretty high number. And I wouldn't even want to guess, but it's definitely not half or anything like that. It's a lot. I just don't know the actual number, and I can get back to you. Let's see, what other questions? Either Sarah or Giovanna, should we
Can I
try to
ask
answer?
just
Yeah.
a quick question? So, it's a TK application. So we got a TK that wasn't even on our list and we toured it and we actually like it. And we also get points then if we apply for kindergarten for our attendance area school, which is a big plus. But if we now do also round 2, you are 100% sure we are not losing the TK application that we got in the first round.
No, you
No.
will lose it.
You will lose it if you get the school that if you get.
No. If I don't get the round 2.
Okay, if you
Like
don't
we
get
apply
your
for
round
round
2,
2, but we don't get in.
yes. So if you have accepted your assignment, this is
Yeah.
why we recommend accept it. If you accepted your assignment, you're in. Like that's it. You're going to SFUSD at that school, unless you get accepted to a different school in round, or unless you get assigned to a different school in round 2
Round 2 or waitlist.
or waitlist. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you like the school that you replaced and you want to make sure you keep it, do not do round 2 because you will lose it. But if there's like a school above it that you like more, then you can do that school and if you don't get the school you like more, you will keep the one you're at as long as you do not list
Yeah.
don't like.
Yeah.
And you don't have to list your assigned school in round 2.
Okay.
Right? That's
Yeah.
because that's already there. Like you got that.
Okay.
You got that in the bag.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
So I saw a lot of questions answered in the chat. And
Mhm.
so if it's okay with you, I'm actually okay with people raising your hand. So that that way we don't have like too many people bumping out at a time. But if you have questions to ask live, feel free to raise your hand and we will.
I want to
let you know.
answer it looks like Buckley, Slender, White didn't get answered.
Okay.
So for TK, is there any priority or consideration for second round given for families assigned to schools that they didn't rank in round one? So as to it, well, we call that designated. If you were given a school that you assigned a school that you did not you'd not put in your preferences, then that's called designation. And we do not give any priority for folks who were designated. So definitely any priorities you already had, because of sibling preference or because of where you live or anything like that, those would still continue, but nothing about what happened to you in round one. And is TK guaranteed for every child that is age eligible? I don't believe that we can guarantee, but maybe it is, but we certainly can't guarantee the spots like everybody can get into a spot that they're looking for.
Okay.
Eric, I think it is guaranteed
It is?
if you're age eligible, yes, but again,
Okay.
it's not a preferred, I
There we
mean,
go. That's what
you're
it is.
guaranteed to get a seat, just like
A
in
seat.
kindergarten, you're guaranteed to get a seat. But
There we go. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for stepping in. I appreciate it. And yes, we are trying to open more TK classrooms. How? That's a good question. Thankfully, it's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem.
Just so that folks are aware, because I'm close to the TK expansion program overall, there are very specific requirements for a classroom that must be available to the students who are in TK and also kindergarten. Those specifics are on the TK California website, which I can drop in the chat. But essentially, they need access to a bathroom. They need to be on the first floor. Not all schools have those types of facilities. Some schools do have those facilities. Our school, I know, is ready to add another TK to our campus. But not all schools have those facilities available because of the size of their campus. So that is why the district has been prohibited from really expanding at the rate that they've desired. And they also needed to spread out TK equitably to all of the neighborhoods so that all children in all the neighborhoods have access to TK. It's quite complicated in the way that it's sort of been rolled out, but that hopefully will give you some insight as to like why there is maybe only 22 spots at the school that you're looking at. And it's really tied to facilities. There was one school even that wasn't able to get their facility prepped, and I think some people are aware they were actually removed from the process before the lottery was run because the facilities were not going to be able to be upgraded in the way that is required from the state of California. So just a little bit of context for everyone.
Precisely. I was just reading, there's a question about that in the chat. So Lawton, I understand that's frustrating. I would be 100% frustrated. Again, that's totally out of our control. It's just that we were not able to get the improvements in that space that we thought we would be able to. And so then we can't have TK and Lawton this year. But yes, I understand. That makes sense. I'd be frustrated too. Yeah.
So Aaron, we've got two questions I noticed. One, there's been and I realize, so just so everybody knows, there are town halls coming up to discuss the budget cuts and school closure criterias and realignments. We cannot spend a significant amount of time on that in this conversation because it will take us just off. So Eric, is there anything that is specifically relevant to round two that parents need to know about the school realignment and budget? Or is that really just not relevant right now because it's not happening until the following school year?
Exactly. That's what I'm going to say. The only thing I can say is that no changes to our school portfolio will happen for 24, 25. So all of the applications we're talking about here, everything that we currently have access to, we are able to apply for next year. And so, next year might be a little challenging. But that's going to be it for a conversation for a later date. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And you can, like, for those of you that are on this call and that answer does not feel satisfactory and you're feeling anxious, I encourage you to join the SF Parent Coalition. We are doing everything we can to make sure that you are up to date on opportunities to have your voice heard. We just need to really reserve this time to focus on helping families figure out their next steps for round 2.
Thank you. I do want to get to a question. This is a really important one. Kenneth asked, if I miss round 1 for TK, do I just list the schools in order of preference for round 2? Did it significantly reduce my chances of getting in my first choice school? Unfortunately, Kenneth, that is true. We have a lot fewer spots open up in round 2 than were obviously that are available in round 1. But it's not impossible. And so you absolutely should list any schools that you can in round 2. But yes, and that's an important thing. It's not just for TK, for everyone. Everybody should, if they missed, whatever reason they missed applying in round 1, or if they already applied but they applied after the deadline, if they applied in, end of February, then you will be going into round 2, the application in round 2, which the deadline is April 19th. And we'll be assigning planning schools on May 27th.
Eric, I saw a follow-up question about language immersion for round 2. And I see a hand raised. So Alexandra, you can go after Eric answers. So the question is, data on placement for students who applied to language immersion. Curious our chances of getting into an immersion class in round 2.
Honestly, I really couldn't say specifically about language immersion. There's probably similar. And, there was a question about like people not getting into their top choice school, or, one of their top, choice schools because, frustrated. The fact is, there are some schools, and I have some slides on this if I can show you, there are some schools that had 4 times the number of applicants than slots. And then Lawton kindergarten had 10 times. So for every slot, we had 10 applicants. So if you got Lawton in kindergarten, you're lucky. Like you had a 1 in 10 chance. So that's that's an example of like maybe thinking about sort of like a little bit more hidden gems would help you maximize your chances of getting into a school, and that same would go for immersion slots.
Completely anecdotal because everybody has their own life experience. We got our first choice. Technically it was our second choice because we wanted the Spanish immersion program. And so, but we got into Alvarado, the school we wanted, but we wanted Spanish immersion. So we did round 2 and literally only listed like Spanish immersion. So we wouldn't lose our spot unless we got into Spanish immersion. And we were extremely lucky because we were able to get in. But it's like, as long as you know that you're not going to give up a spot you want, which is what we did, like go ahead and apply for that program if it's what you want, if you want it more than what you have. All right, Alexandra, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, so is round 2 kind of like run exactly the same as round 1? So the lottery is basically just running the lottery again, but with probably a smaller group of people and a smaller number of spots.
That's right. The only difference is we don't designate. So if you didn't get, if you don't get a spot on any of the schools that you put on your list, then you're not assigned some other school that's not on your list.
Got it.
All right, we've got like 10 minutes at the most left. If your question has not been answered in the chat, because we've been trying to catch everybody, but if it hasn't been answered, please raise your hand to make sure we don't miss you.
Oh, someone is asking about whether or not the difference between whether or not that we designate for round 1 but not for round 2, if that's on our website. Probably swsc.edu/main round. I would definitely, I'm not like, again, I'm not like super familiar with it, but definitely check it out. But that I can tell you that we do not designate for round 1, for round 2. I mean, I see a question. Oshiatkat I'm sorry.
That's
Oshi
okay. It's OSHA. I go by
OSHA.
OSHA.
Okay, great.
I know it's a mouthful. I'm just curious. Okay, with the language programs, I have twin boys that are in a special day class, but they are moving to general ed half the time and special day class for like 40%. So I think they want 60 to 40. We have always been interested in the language programs because my sons are hyperlexic, so they're teaching themselves Mandarin and Japanese and Spanish at 5. Is that even something that we could even try and get, maybe not for kindergarten, but for grade 1? Or is that something that we would specifically need to speak with like the enrollment for special kids?
So I think that if your site that you got assigned to because of the special day class needs also has a language program, then that would be a matter of you checking. I would definitely check in with the teacher of the special day class, and
Okay.
and then you're welcome to apply for the language pathway at that site. So if, like, as an example, if I'm not sure if I don't even know if Flynn has a special day class, but if you did, and it has general education as well as Spanish dual immersion, right? If you applied to, if you were in the general education and then also in the special day class, then you could apply next year to try to be in the Spanish immersion. That's a possibility. But again, I would definitely check in with, teachers to make sure that's
Okay. So it would have to be at the school. I guess what I'm asking is, like, eventually we want to get them into general education. And if we currently fought and do have pairs for each of them, like, would it be something that we could potentially in the future, like, just go to a language pathway school, and because they have the pairs to help them, that they could do that? Or are we stuck in the special day class autism focused pathway and hope that they're taught or get into one of these classes? I guess that's my
I would definitely, the IEP would need to reflect that. So
Okay.
I would definitely start that conversation within the IEP, and then yeah,
Okay.
and then you can move on from there.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So we have, I think we can only do the last 3 hands that are up. We've got Chad, I think it's Jerry, I hope I'm saying that correct, and Neves. So those are our last 3 questions. You did, when upon registering, we'll put the slide up again at the end to make sure you can get Eric's email address, my email address, and then you can also join SF Parent Coalition and SF Lottery Group as sources of support for these questions. But Chad?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering what the rationale is for only allowing one school in the wait pool, as opposed to just because then it forces stress on parents to have to try to pick one.
I'm not so familiar about the rationale. What I can tell you is that we're working to changing that for next year. Next year, we're going to be moving away from round 2 entirely and just going straight to wait pool with multiple wait pools. But that's not for this year. So I don't want to confuse anybody. So I'm not going to talk about that more than just say that next year it will be different. This year, unfortunately, this is the way it is.
Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering if there's any way you can give us some insight, Eric, into like what the time frame of the round 2. So like, why is there such a long, almost like, I guess it's like another month plus for the round 2 assignments between the deadline and then the actual assignment letters? Yeah, is there anything you can tell us about behind the scenes, like what goes into all of the time that takes, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things is that we have to make sure to include appeals. So that's the first step. We have to be able to consider appeals first. We also, round 2 is not just the time when we notify people about from appeals in round 2, but also for interdistrict transfers. So there's a little bit more work that is done to like get ready for the run. I haven't been through a run a round 2 run before, so I don't know exactly. What I do know is the people who do the run on our end are very seasoned, and we do it as quickly as we possibly can. We already have shrunk the time frame more than it used to be. I also know that May 27th is really, really late. So that's why we are trying to go for something different for next year, where we could potentially be offering people spots sooner than the very end of school if they're not happy with their main round assignment. But that's where we're at right now.
Great, thank you.
And we have one last question and then we're gonna need to close up.
Yeah, my last question is, I don't know if you actually know, but based on your experience, how much movement is in TK classes for like round 2 or wait list? It's like, because TK class is just one class with, 18 kids or 20 kids. I do think that maybe in kindergarten it's a little bit more movement, but what are the chances to get into a TK in round 2 or a wait list? Based on your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I do think that the like I said before at the beginning, that the idea that TK is potentially optional and that some folks will just choose they'd rather to go to a private preschool for their last year before kindergarten, that could be the case at the school that you're trying to get into. So it could be that some people just decline. It's not like they're moving to some other TK, but they just decline.
Yeah.
So
And
I
it's
don't
like-
I don't know how many. Like I
Okay.
have no way of knowing how many. But you could go to SFUSD enrollment highlights, the EDU, and then look, search up enrollment highlights, and you can see what the statistics were from last year.
Okay.
If you're a data nerd,
Okay.
I know there are some on this call that would do that.
Yeah. And round 2 is also like lottery.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
One thing I know that we don't want to take another call, but somebody asked about like when we're available for in-person meetings. So an important little detail I want to just end on is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, we're available in 555 Franklin, room 100. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 to 4:30, we're available in addition to that, we're also in the Bayview at the Ola Hybrid Campus, 1520 Oakdale. In addition to that, I'm just going to put my email address into the chat, and folks can contact me after the fact if they would like to have, oops, oh gosh, I wrote too fast. If they would like to have a follow-up conversation.
Thank you, Eric. I also put my email in the chat just in case anybody wants to reach out to SF parents. And then also you can join, like I mentioned, joining the 2 different Facebook groups, the SFUSD Lottery Group and the SFUSD Family Forums by SF Parents. And I'm gonna surprise Eric really quick by asking Autumn to share a little bit, because Autumn is one of our parents who did not get one of her top placements, but loves her school. So can you just share like just a brief, like 10-second version of your story with the 2 minutes we have left?
Yeah, sure. I did not get my top spot. I was living in a CTIP area location. I think a lot of people tell people that because you live in CTIP, you're going to get your top school. That was not the case for my family. But I gave my school a chance. I wanted to plug into the community immediately. I wanted to figure it out. So I did. And I've had a great experience. I think, in my opinion, and if you ever visit my school and happen to be on a tour with me, I think a lot of our schools actually, my background is in PR and marketing. A lot of our schools actually have a PR and marketing problem, not an actual school problem. And in my opinion, and part of the reason I volunteer in this and other things is that I want to encourage the district and other school communities to be able to lift up their schools and highlight the things that they love about their school. Our schools are all more common, or more alike rather than they are different. All of these schools have access to incredible arts, incredible education, and some have had, marketing professionals around in their school communities longer than others. That is really, truly a huge part of it. My school has had a fundraiser that we've run for the last 15 years. We've had a PTA for well over 50 years, but maybe not the same marketing that other schools have had. And so I really encourage you, like Eric shared at the beginning, go tour your school, try to plug into your community. If you can, join the lottery support group. And then round 2, hopeful. But there's so much movement truly in that, in these rounds. Round 2, there's less movement, but in the first few weeks of school, I was actually shocked at just how much movement there is and how much people move around. And so anyway, you will land in a school where your family will thrive. And unfortunately, this process can be a little stressful for families. So that's why we hosted this today. So I hope everyone is able to leave with some hope and also is encouraged to check out the school that they were assigned to.
Thank you, Autumn. I really appreciate you sharing that. A bunch of people are asking what school your kids are at. Are you okay with telling everyone?
Oh, yeah. I'm the PTA president at Leonard R. Flynn. It's a Spanish immersion and general education school on the border of Bernal and the Mission, on Cressida Park, which the kids use a ton. They do walking field trips to Bernal Heights, you know, all the time. A lot of really great enrichment happens. So anyway.
Autumn, I told everyone in chat while you were talking that your kids went to Flint, so I'm glad you're fine with sharing that. You talk about it a lot, so I figured.
Awesome.
Yes.
Again, thank you, Eric. Thank you for our amazing volunteers who joined us. Thank you for all of you who spent your lunch hour learning about this process so that you can feel more prepared. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with us. We are going to go ahead and end this meeting now. Have an amazing day. And as one of my favorite podcasts says, have the best day available to you. So that is what I wish for you today. Thank you again for being here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.